JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about Jayson Tatum. He came out with a quote, saying that he knows he's being judged more on whether or not he can win a championship or not. And now this has been a more recent conversation that we've had over the years within the NBA. How it's been all about, do you win a ring or not? Is it a ring or not? Does the season end in a ring or not? And nothing else matters. It's rings, rings, rings. And when I was younger, I would have agreed with that and would have said, it's all about the rings. It's all about the rings. But then as I got older and watched sports more closely, I believe that we should try to shed this, because Jayson Tatum is an amazing player and an awesome player. And the fact that he's not winning rings, we ding him on it. But he's not playing with the same caliber players that LeBron James has won with, or that Steph Curry has won with. So it's just or that Tim Duncan has won with, or Kobe Bryant has won with, right? He's had a lot of different coaches, many different coaches throughout his career already, many different players, throughout his career. So this idea that we just put all of this on one single individual player, I think is really not fair. But at the same time, I do get that when you are a great player, the expectation is that you lead the franchise to a championship, because in basketball, more than really any other sport, you technically have that ability to kind of lead the team to a championship more than, say, a baseball or football, right? It's just one player can make such a tremendous amount of impact on a basketball court at any given time, especially because you're playing both offense and defense at the same time. And you can literally do everything within a game. Right, like in football, right? Patrick Mahomes obviously has a tremendous impact, but he can't catch the ball and run and play defense and sack. He can't do everything. In basketball, you can rebound the ball, you can shoot the ball, you can pass the ball, you can steal the ball, right? Every single statistical line in a basketball game, any given player can do at any given time. That's not the case, obviously, in other sports. Not mainly, like I just said, baseball and football. So that's why I think why rings matter more than anything. But I think the other problem is, and this will be my last point, and then we'll roll the clip, is that we've become such a ring chasing culture in general because of mainly Michael Jordan and Tom Brady, because they've won these rings. And you have these other players now who are trying to chase them. And it's I got to get those amount of rings to be able to be considered better than them or the GOAT. And so now, especially when someone like a Tom Brady gets 7, right? That's so much more than everyone else, that now when a Patrick Mahomes comes along, no matter how amazing Patrick Mahomes is, his stats could be 10x better than Tom Brady. Not saying they are, but they could be. And people would still say, but how many rings do you have, right? And that's kind of what happened with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's got 6 rings. LeBron James is balling out, doing all these great things. It's well, that's awesome, but how many rings do you have? So that's the problem. That's why we've become, I think, and from my viewpoint, such a ring. When people were debating how good Tom Brady is and is he the GOAT, people weren't necessarily saying, well, he only has 3 rings. He needs 4 or 5 to be the GOAT. And people weren't really saying that. I mean, sure, were some people, probably, but that was not the dominant conversation. Nowadays, it's more the dominant conversation, and it's always the comeback. Well, you don't have 7 rings. Well, you don't have 6 rings. Well, you didn't win 6 for 6, no matter what sport we're talking about. So that's why Jayson Tatum, that's why when you have 0 rings, when you have other players battling for 4 rings, 5 rings, 6 rings, 7 rings, and beyond, when someone doesn't even have 1 ring, it's well, how are we supposed to say you're good if you don't even have a ring? So
no matter what I do in the regular season, I'm at that point where people can judge me off whether I win a championship. I realized that, and it's like, all right, I just got to do it. Brew, your reaction.
Well, first of all, I would say to Jayson, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
When you get to the level of you got to win a championship, that's great, right? That's a burden that we only put on the best players. All right. So number one, wear that with pride, because that's a compliment to how good you are and how good people think you are. Now, I guess here will come the detraction. If that was a great compliment to Jayson, I think Jayson Tatum, as great as he is not quite at that level where it's like, we're going to give you incredible love and praise, even though you haven't won a championship. Like Embiid, even though he's struggled in the playoffs, the dude has been so good in the regular season, particularly this year, that you still give him that love, and we put him on the top tier, and he gets MVPs. Luka, same thing. Like, we just know how good Luka is. So I see like two tracks. I see the track of, you are so great that you better win a championship, because everybody that's as good as you wins a championship.
Yes.
And that's where Luka is, and maybe Embiid is. But, then there's the track of, you got to win a championship for us to know how great you are.
Yes.
Even though we know you're awesome, right?
Yes.
But you won't get that love until that extra.
Kevin Garnett.
Yes,
Dirk,
yes.
those guys.
Dirk is the one I wrote down. That's what Dirk was.
D-Wade
knew
would have
Dirk
been,
was
but
great.
D-Wade won it so early, so it didn't matter. But go ahead, sorry.
But no, you're right. I mean, we knew how great Dirk was, or we knew he was great. We knew he was going to be a Hall of Famer, all that. But once he won, he needed to win a championship to kind of go to that next level. And that's where Jayson Tatum is. And if he does it, look, I think if he does it, then he will indeed go to that level where now he's a perennial MVP, like top of the MVP race. And so, this is a compliment to him. He's got a great chance to do it. And here's the other thing, quick, Nick. If he doesn't do it, like, there's really no excuse. I know Denver's great, but
Boston's got the best roster.
They should be able to win it. If you're that guy, you should be able to win.
So here's the thing: you're saying it's a compliment, but he's saying he's anointing it as himself, but he's also saying it about himself. Like he is.
But it is true.
I don't think it is.
Really?
No, because I don't think people look at Jayson Tatum quite like that. So I tried to make a list. There are 10 guys in the league right now who either were, in their prime or are currently the type of guy where you are supposed to win the title.
Right.
And those guys are LeBron, Steph, Durant.
Steph wasn't there.
No, I know, but I'm saying or have been at some point in their career or are right now. James Harden.
Yes, absolutely.
Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, he's done it,
Giannis, Joker, Luka, who has not done it but is judged like that, Embiid, and that's 9, and this other one's projection, but I know it's how he's going to be judged, your guy Wemby.
Oh, yeah.
I think those are the only 10. I think there are then, I have another list, guys who we're going to see if they get to that level. These are all very young guys.
Why aren't they putting
Anthony
them on the screen for us?
SGA, Halliburton, Ja, Paolo. I'll throw in Wild's guy Chet. Like, who knows? Very young. Then there's a whole other group of guys that are veterans, been in the league for a while, that we all think are awesome. Devin Booker, Dame, Anthony Davis, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell. It's like, hey, those are great players. But you are not judged, can you carry your team to a title? Because we don't think you can. And right now, I think Jayson Tatum lives in that world. Now, if he wins...
So you agree with me, if he wins, now he moves up.
If he wins, he moves up. But I don't think... I think there is, oddly, even though he's younger and been in the league less and has less playoff pelts on the wall, I think there's more pressure on Luka than there is on Tatum, because even if we can't prove to you why, I think everyone that watches basketball is like, yeah, that guy's better.
Okay, this is actually pretty thought-provoking. Trying to figure out how I want to break this down first. Because I get Nick's points, actually. I really, really do. And the question, though, is it because of the quality of game or just the skill set, or just, let's just use Luka since that's what we just ended on. Like, Luka's just so much better than Jalen than oh my God, Tatum, you know? Or is it that Luka is just seen as maybe more popular or more divisive, right? Like Luka has been, Luka kind of has this love it or hate it, right? Especially because he can be kind of controversial. He's barking at the refs. He's, doing all this type of stuff. He also has this bravado. He carried his, his team in the Olympics, all that weight. Like it's just like a potentially of a different thing. His game is a little bit maybe more exciting, and he's had maybe like more crazy moments in the playoffs. Not to say that Tatum hasn't. I keep wanting to say Jalen Hurts or Jalen Tatum. But we've had Luka, right, like destroy Devin Booker in the playoffs. But then he got his face punched in the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors. So it's tough. I think people were also anointing Luka as potentially like the next LeBron James, actually. And actually, if memory serves me correctly, Nick Wright was like saying how Luka's just like the greatest and is doing things that no other player has ever done. And he was pretty much trying to put all his money on Luka and, do all that. And then that didn't happen. And, Luka enters the playoffs, and what was he averaging, like 30-some points a playoff game, like for his first, like however many games it was. And so I think Luka had this really big buzz about him, but Luka's name seems to be dying right now. Like he was on this trajectory. And again, I love using like my parents or my mom in this specific example now as an example, because to me that is always such a great barometer, because we're all big fans. We know who Luka is. We know who Anthony Davis is. We know all these players, right? We know where they've all been, all of that. But my mom doesn't. So my mom, the one year I was watching the Olympics with her, it was me and her, and it was real late night because of the way where they were playing. And so we were watching like games at like whatever time, 2:00 in the morning, whatever time it was. And I'm explaining it to her. I'm like, hey, this is Tatum. That's Kevin Durant. Oh, look, see, that's Draymond Green, this, that, and that's Luka, and, here and that. And so, like, that's him rising. And then he had a big, he like rode this into like big playoff moments, like the one that I told you about, against Devin Booker. But then it was nowhere. And then the following season, nothing, right? And it's like, you have to follow that up. It's kind of like if Steph Curry was rising, then he won the championship, right? But if he didn't win the championship and just lost, he would have fallen down. What would have saved him is that he's such an amazing three-point shooter that would have been enough for people to keep going, oh my God, look at that. He just sunk a half-court shot or whatever. People would still love that. But it's undeniable that he was able to keep staying relevant, because not only did they win, he like bursted on the scene, won, and then the following season they won. They beat the record. They beat the Lakers, Michael Jordan's record for the most wins in a regular season. And then I'm pretty sure that same season was when he hit, made over 400 threes, right? 400 over 300, over 400 threes, which is unbelievable. So you're able to double down on that. Luka has not done that. Jayson Tatum has not done that. A lot of these other players have not done that. You have to strike while the iron's hot. That's when all these expectations come upon you. And that's what Embiid was now able to build off of, because Embiid won the MVP, and then he was following it up with an even better season. He was doing things that Wilt Chamberlain never did. I mean, just unbelievable things. And then unfortunately he got injured. But I always make excuse or defend Embiid's lack of playoff success, because he's been injured every playoffs, and real injuries, not nagging injuries. He's torn his meniscus multiple times, multiple orbital fractures, concussions, not just like lingering back pain and he's tired and everyone's banged up, like real injuries, real concrete injuries. And that's just terrible luck. And just, again, I've also talked about how his body just can't handle the length of a season, unfortunately. It just sucks. And that's why I also give Anthony Davis the benefit of the doubt, too. Just because his body can't handle it. But he also mentally can't handle it. It doesn't seem like it. He doesn't have that same level of resilience that like LeBron or Steph or even Embiid has. Because Embiid's out there, injured, concussed, wearing a mask. Like, he still tries to do everything he can. He just can only do so much. When you're that big and injured, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. Any big guys out there will know. So that's why I think Tatum maybe doesn't have those expectations. But I don't know who's really, again, I don't really know who's talking about Luka right now. Luka better win. Or if the Denver Nuggets didn't win last year, I don't know if people were really saying Jokic, whoa, Jokic is too good for them not to win. He has to carry them. I mean, like, I think people have those conversations just for the sake of having those conversations. But I think it's not the real expectations. Like, I think the expectations of winning a championship has been on LeBron is way more than any other player. And then I don't even think it was necessarily Steph Curry individually. I think it was more the Warriors as a whole. It was the collection of Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and then for the time when you had KD. I think then it was like, well, you better win. And if you don't win with those players, now you look worse, right? But right now, Steph Curry, people aren't looking at him and saying, he better win a championship. Come on, let's go. Just not, I just don't see it. Devin Booker had that for a little bit, but when you get smoked and destroyed in the playoffs and are proven to not be able to do it, and then you also just have this attitude about you, again, it's also different. KD, I think people also accept that he's older. I mean, there's more of an acceptance that a player like a KD is just older, but people still also like kind of give him crap for not winning. Like, it's more like they don't expect him to win, but they then call him out for not winning. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same thing. It's like, they're not like he better win, but if he doesn't win, they then make fun of him and say, see, he can't win. Like, it's kind of this weird type of situation. With LeBron, it's we expect you to win, and if you don't win, it's I told you he's not good enough. There's just like a different intensity around it. But I think Tatum is speaking on both nationally and then also what he feels probably within the Boston media. The Boston media looks to him as, the guy, the winner. Like, let's go. What are we doing here? You got to lead us to a victory. But I mean, I think it's in a lot of ways unnecessary levels of pressure for one individual player. But he hasn't did himself any favors when he's had some truly horrific basketball games. Truly horrific, like playoff games, that is, and key moments, most notably last year against the Sixers. What did he go for, like 0 for what, like he had like a terrible game. And it's just like, that's hard to forget. It's easy to forget if you've already won, right? Steph Curry could have a playoff game where he goes, where he only hits like 1-3, goes like 1 for 8 from the field, but it's like, well, he's a 2-time MVP. He's already won multiple rings. He's the greatest shooter ever. It just is what it is. That's what happens. He's had 50-point games, like this, that, like all these great things. And Tatum has not built that resume yet, so he doesn't get that same level of grace. But those are my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Remember, I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, please let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. And please do give this video a thumbs up. It really, really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. And I would so greatly appreciate it. It's very easy. You just click it. That's all I gotta do. It's a little thumbs up. Thank you so much, and see you next time.